This week we will be continuing on the subject on the enlightenment of the Buddha. But they will be leading a homage to Buddha and taking a 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now, let's compose our minds, put our palms together, and welcome Bhante.
Okay, thank you, Terence. Maybe we can start off with paying respects to the Buddha by giving 3 bows. First bow, second bow, third bow. Homage chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. 5 precepts. Panātipada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinādana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu micchācāra veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvāda veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, good evening to everyone. So we kind of like just started the rains retreat over the weekend on Sunday. So so we're just now talking about 7 weeks after the Buddha's enlightenment. And one of the weeks is actually to commemorate also the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma, the Asalha Puja. So we'll not yet cover that, but we'll just briefly talk about it. Okay, back to the table, yeah. Yep, so there's a table. So we've covered last week on the difference between the left column and the right column. We are now mainly going to cover the first 5 weeks. And because especially the post-canonical version, because the 6th and 7th week is the repetition of the 3rd and 4th week of the Vinaya version. So the ones that's in bold font, that's unique in the post-canonical version, which is more widely taught, whereas the Vinaya version is not really widely taught. So this is just a comparison. So again, I'm not there, so chronologically, I won't know what's historically accurate, but I'll just let you know 2 versions. Okay, so we've covered the first week, so both versions are the same. contemplating on dependent origination, both post-canonical and the Vinaya version. Okay, let's go to the second week. Okay, so second week. So in the post-canonical version, I'll just read the story. Remained 1 week gazing at the Bodhi tree with motionless eyes as a mark of profound gratitude to the inanimate Bodhi tree that sheltered him during his struggles. So the Buddha was kind of gazing or staring at the tree for 1 whole week, uneventful, but had silently taught a great moral lesson to the world. So this is what's being kind of taught kind of in most Buddhist classes. Next slide. Okay, so this is the Vinaya's version. That means the original, I would call it the closer to original version. So this is the second week. After 7 days, went from the Bodhi tree to a goatherd's banyan tree. So the Buddha didn't stay at the same tree, right? So he only spent 1 week at the Bodhi tree contemplating dependent origination. But the second week he moved on. He moved to this goatherd's banyan tree. There too he sat cross-legged for 7 days without moving. Then a conceited Brahmin went up to the Buddha, exchanged pleasantries with him. Good Gautama, how is one a Brahmin? What are the qualities that make one a Brahmin? So the Buddha actually managed to strike a conversation, and basically he had his first Dhamma talk, but may not be successful. So let's go to the third paragraph. The Brahmin who has shut out bad qualities, who is humble, free from flaws, and self-controlled, who has reached final knowledge and has fulfilled the spiritual life. He may rightly proclaim himself a Brahmin, having no conceit about anything in the world. So probably the Brahmin that struck a conversation with the Buddha, or the popular opinion is that Brahmin is by birth. It's more like a social status. But the Buddha's definition of Brahmin is more on the inner qualities. So if a person has a good moral character, then that would kind of define one as a Brahmin. Okay, next. So it didn't mention whether the Brahmin got enlightened or not. So probably he didn't realize the truth. If not, there won't need to be the enlightening of the first 5 disciples. So probably kind of like, okay, took his word with a pinch of salt and he left. Okay, then the third week. Okay, so this is the classical version, a post-canonical version. Certain deities resided at the Bodhi tree doubted his attainment to Buddhahood. To dispel their doubts, he created by his psychic power a jeweled ambulatory, that means a walking meditation path, and paced up and down for a week. So, so the first aspect where they talk about deities are not able to tell, not able to tell who is enlightened or not, pretty consistent. Even before the Buddha got enlightened, where we covered the Buddha went through asceticism, about to die, and some of the devas thought, oh, God, that's an arahant. So no, the deities may not have the ability to know what's the attainment. Then the second part, the Buddha have to display certain feats. So in some sutta, some accounts, the Buddha also sometimes have to display certain feats to kind of maybe, to give credibility, or sometimes to tame certain egos or certain heavenly beings. So this one, I won't say true or not true, but you can just note that this is a post-canonical version. Okay, next. Okay, Maha Khandaka. So this is the Vinaya version, or I would say closer to the original version. After 7 days, went from goatherd's banyan tree to the powder puff tree. I have no idea how these trees look like, so I just got it from the Sutta Central. So the Buddha again moved to another place. There too he sat cross-legged for 7 days without moving. Just then an unseasonal storm was approaching, bringing 7 days of rain, cold winds, and clouds. Muchalinda, the Dragon King, came out from his abode. He encircled the body of the Buddha with 7 coils and spread his large hood over his head, thinking, "May the Buddha not be hot or cold, nor be bothered by horse flies or mosquitoes, by the wind or the burning sun, or by creeping animals or insects." Okay, so if you look at the picture, most of the Muchalinda statue may not depict this event accurately. So in the scripture, it is mentioned that the Naga king, the dragon king, circled the body, coiled the Buddha's body, so act as the Buddha's raincoat. Whereas most of the statues or images depicted the coils are beneath the Buddha's feet, and there's a large hood, something like an umbrella, covering the Buddha, right? So that's the artist's version. So the 7 coils would probably represent the 7 factors of enlightenment. So we look at the statue in the image, it only has 3 coils, 3 coils. So the original event should have 7 coils. Okay, but the head, some artists may depict 7 heads. The Naga has 7 heads, but then this Vinaya, this Mahakandaka doesn't mention how many heads does this Naga has. Okay, next. After 7 days, when he knew the sky was clear, Muchalinda unraveled his coils from the Buddha's body and transformed himself into a young Brahmin. He then stood in front of the Buddha, raising his joined palms in veneration. Okay, so this is probably the first respectful audience, but whether he realized any Dhamma is a different issue. Seeing the significance of this, the Buddha uttered a heartfelt exclamation. Seclusion is bliss for the contented, who sees the teaching that they have learned. Kindness to the world is happiness, for one who is harmless to living beings. Dispassion for the world is happiness, for one who overcomes sensuality. By removing the conceit, I am, this indeed is the highest bliss. Right? So, very profound Dhamma teaching, but in the short 2 paragraphs. Okay, so earlier on we talked about the significance of the 7 coils. So of course, this Muchalinda may not understand the 7 factors of enlightenment. So the 7 coils would represent many coils. So the 7 factors, again, just a refresher. You have mindfulness. Then the next factor is investigation of the Dhamma. Then the third factor, energy, virya. Then the fourth factor, you have joy. Then the fifth factor, you have tranquility. Sixth factor, samadhi. And the seventh factor is equanimity. So these are the 7 factors of awakening. So normally in the meditation, these 7 factors of awakening is more like a chain reaction. It's a symptoms to denote whether you are doing correctly. And the 7 factors of awakening is the process towards cessation. and this cessation and detachment. So if, let's say, we practice contemplating impermanence, so that's the first two factors. We are mindful of the meditation object. We are investigating impermanence. And the third factor we have is this energy. That means consistent effort. Consistently, we don't just think for 1 second and we stop. We keep repeating. And if these three conditions are fulfilled, we kind of like maintain it there. And if there's real detachment, then this joy should arise. Like a surge of joy should arise. So there's an indicator you have activated this chain reaction. So that's the fourth factor, awakening. Then it will slowly develop. And this joy will sort of disappear over time. So we call that tranquility. And if you continue to be mindful of impermanence, this peace will deepen. Yeah, so we call it samadhi. That means concentration or calming of the mind, peace. And last one, equanimity. That means if this mind becomes unshaken, emotionally contented, and not so easily shaken by the ups and downs of life, then we call that equanimity. So these are the 7 factors of awakening. All right, so why do I mention this? Because later on, the phrase, this conceit is kind of mentioned. So I'll just go through the 2 paragraphs which the Buddha kind of preached. Okay, seclusion is bliss for the contented. Right, so if a person truly has contentment, truly has samadhi, truly has equanimity, they will enjoy seclusion. They don't like to engage in too many activities. They don't like to socialize too much. I think we covered that before. What is the true seclusion? True seclusion is within the mind, not overreacting, regardless of the external circumstance. So externally, one can be alone or one can be with full of people. They still can have inner peace and contentment. Okay, then the next line, who sees the teaching that they have learned. So the word sees means you realize, you experience it and you fully understand. So it's not just theoretical understanding. Kindness to the world is happiness. So you practice this metta or loving kindness for one who's harmless to living beings. So kindness is metta, and one who practices harmlessness would be compassion. So we have both loving kindness and compassion being mentioned here in the first paragraph. This passion for the world is happiness, right? So if a person reduce passion or craving for one who overcomes sensuality, right? So if you overcome sensuality, then you feel this new kind of happiness. But removing the conceit, I am, this indeed is the highest bliss. Right? So if a person were to overcome this fetter called conceit, or we call this ego, so a person can remove ego, then that would be an arahant or a Buddha. So only a fully enlightened being can remove this conceit and ego. All right, so this is the 2 statements. Any questions so far before we move on? Okay, then we move on. Okay, then the 4th week, then the Buddha created another thing, created a jeweled chamber. Spent in the jeweled chamber, contemplating the intricacies of the Abhidhamma. Mind and body were so purified when he pondered on the relations. 7 treatises of the Abhidhamma. So this is an interesting thing. 7 treatises means 7 chapters, the 7 books, which we'll talk about it later. 6 colored rays, namely blue. So blue means spirit of universal compassion. Yellow, the middle way. Red, the blessings of practice. White, purity of the Dhamma. Orange, wisdom. And a mixture of these colors, 5 colors, called the truth, emitted from the Buddha's body. And these colors were kind of taken and being made into the Buddhist flag during one of the World Buddhist Council, probably in the 1950s. So that's how we have the Buddhist flag, and it's being widely used, right? So in this event, again, depends on how you define Abhidhamma. Abhi, if you loosely translate the word, Abhi means higher, Dhamma means the truth. So if you contemplate higher truths in general, to me, nothing wrong. But down here, I would probably think there's some politicization and marketing of this Abhidhamma Pitaka. So now here they define Abhidhamma and restrict its definition to the books, to this scripture called the 7 treatises. And these 7 treatises, not all of them are during the Buddha's time. Some of the treatises are a debate, basically. One of the treatises, called the Points of Controversy, is actually a debate between the early schools of Buddhism before King Asoka's time. So it cannot be right after the Buddha's enlightenment. So again, one big contradiction. Okay, so the next slide. Okay. Yep. So if I talk about the 7 treatises of the Abhidhamma, it is only formed in the 3rd Buddhist Council. Yeah, at this Katawatu. Right. So this Venerable Moggaliputtatissa, which is the King Asoka's brother, became the chairperson of this great Buddhist council, the 3rd Great Synod, the 3rd Buddhist Council, in which he discusses and refutes doctrines of other schools in order to uproot all points of controversy in the Buddha Dhamma. Right, so the chapter, the 5th book, called Katawatu, is called the Points of Controversy. So it cannot be right after the Buddha's enlightenment. So this book called the Katawatu is actually formed in the, obviously formed in the 3rd Buddhist Council. Okay, next. Okay, then you have the Vinaya version. So this is the which week? The 4th or 5th week already. 4th week. Okay. Yeah. So 4th week in the Vinaya version. So after 7 days, the Buddha came out of the stillness and went from the powder puff tree. Powder puff tree is the 3rd week, to an 8th flower tree. So the 8th flower tree is this current week, which is the 4th week. There he sat cross-legged for 7 days without moving, experiencing the bliss of freedom. Just then, the merchants Tapusa and Balika were traveling from Ukala to that area. Then a certain deity, who was a former relative of theirs, said to them, "Sirs, a Buddha who has just attained awakening is staying at the foot of an 8th flower tree. Go to that Buddha and offer him baked goods and honey. That will be for your benefit and happiness for a long time." Right, so basically the 2 merchants, and these 2 merchants, very key, important figures, especially in the Burmese tradition. Later we'll tell you why. And they took baked goods and honey and went to the Buddha. They bowed down and said, "Venerable Sir, please accept the baked goods and honey from us. That will be for our benefit and happiness for a long time." So basically, the Buddha after enlightenment, did not eat for 3 weeks. Did not eat for 3 weeks. So the Vinaya version, the Buddha did not eat for 3 weeks, whereas the, how do you call it, the post-canonical version will place this event at the last week, the 7th week. So the post-canonical version will make the Buddha fast for close to 7 weeks before these two merchants appear and give him food. So whereas this Vinaya version talks about these fellas appearing in the 4th week. Okay, next. Okay, so the Buddha somehow did not have alms bowl. So the alms bowl was lost. I think maybe the prior to that, maybe the post-canonical story will tell you he placed the bowl on the stream and made a vow, and if he can reach enlightenment, may the bowl flow upstream. So I can't find it in the so-called sutta version. So anyway, the Buddha did not have a bowl. So the 4 great kings offered him 4 crystal bowls from the 4 directions. So these 4 great kings are the heavenly kings, not the Mendo Pop heavenly kings. So these 4 are the different bosses of 4 different races. The Nagas, Kumbhandanas, Gandhabas, and the Yakas, 4 races. So they managed to make him 4 bowls, 4 crystal bowls. So he needs so many bowls. When Tapusa and Balika knew that the Buddha had finished his meal, they bowed down with their head at his feet and said, "Sir, we go for refuge to the Buddha and the teaching. Please accept us as lay followers who have gone for refuge for life." By means of the double refuge, so they do not have 3 refuges, they have 2 refuges, Buddha and Dhamma. No Sangha yet. So these are the 2 refuges. They became the first lay followers of the world. Okay, so it is believed that the hair relics called Kesa Dhatu were later reputed to be enshrined by the merchants on their return home on what is now known as Burma, in the Shwedagon Pagoda in Rangoon. Right, so this is the, I would say, probably the national treasure of Burma. Okay, so now it's 9 o'clock, so we end the sharing for today. Okay, check that everyone's back. Okay, then we can start the guided meditation. First, find a comfortable sitting posture. Make sure your back is upright and the rest of your body relaxed. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're now feeling the sensations of the body. Call this mindfulness of the 4 elements. So these are the earth, fire, wind, and water elements. And these are part of the first aggregate. So whatever sensation that you feel appear within the body, you are using the body door consciousness, mainly using the nervous system. So earth element represents any hard or soft sensations. Fire element represents hot and cold. Wind element represents any kind of movement, fast, slow movements. And water element represents moist or dry sensations. So whenever you're able to detect them, we are going to deliberately wish them well and happy. So the labeling, you call this earth or the fire or the wind, so that is called perception, the perception aggregate, third aggregate. And anytime the mind thinks, generates something, that's the fourth aggregate. You detect the elements appearing, that's a formation. You have a thought, you try to give it a label, that's a formation. You wish it well and happy, that's also a formation, part of the fourth aggregate. And the second aggregate talks about feelings. You whether find it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So whatever sensation appear, whatever feelings, whatever formations, we first make peace with them. Thoughts of non-anger. Now we are using this Noble Eightfold Path to reduce craving. If we do not do that, then what will happen is that we'll just feel the sensations. Anybody also can feel sensations. But then the mind will cling onto the sensations, cling onto the aggregates. And that clinging will lead to all kinds of hindrances and sufferings, restlessness, worry, plan about this project, or worry about some event coming next. So the mind will drift off, create lots of stories, lots of dramas. So we call this clinging and becoming. So in order to overcome it, we apply this Noble Eightfold Path, starting with the right thought. We wish all the sensations well and happy. So you synchronize with the sensation. Every time you finish the sentence, you wish it well and happy. Then when a new sensation appears, you wish the sensations well and happy. And if you consistently apply this Eightfold Path, then that's the fourth noble truth, path leading to the end of craving and stress. So if you do it correctly, it should lead to the third noble truth, which is this, we don't talk about cessation here, reducing of craving and stress. So if your mind starts to calm down, means you're on the right track. If the mind gets more frustrated, more agitation, and that's the first two noble truths, stress and craving. And if you find your mind quite calm, and we can do this insight portion, so we can start to reflect on impermanence. So whenever sensation appear, we can synchronize and label impermanence or any word or phrase associated with impermanence. So you can use rising and falling, birth and death, change, anicca, and just pick a favorite and keep repeating. So the more you think of impermanence, then that's turning the Dhamma wheel, following the Eightfold Path. Once you stop labeling and thinking of impermanence, then the mind will be subject to clinging and story making. So our challenge now is to see how far can the mind detach. We treat everything else as a byproduct. Emphasis is on traveling the middle path. Keep on labeling impermanence. Okay, so there will be the Vipassana route without any jhanas, yeah? So now we're going to continue with that, mindful of impermanence, but we start to wish may all beings be well and happy. So we treat all beings as the four elements, as the five aggregates. So whatever sensations you detect, we are going to wish may all beings be well and happy. So the more we practice, if we are able to reduce this selfishness or this sense of self, then basically all beings are actually five aggregates. Right? Who are these all beings? So while these sensations appear and disappear, these five aggregates appear, disappear, and we synchronize with wishing all beings well and happy. So in the Mettam Sutta, if there's a combination of these 7 factors of awakening plus loving kindness, it may lead to the 4th level of concentration. So the equanimity of the samadhi is different from the 7 factors equanimity. Or in fact, there's a combination of both now. And with that observation of this impermanence, we are going to use the contemplation of compassion. So whatever 5 aggregates appear, they are subject to clinging and suffering. So we are going to wish, may all beings be free from suffering. Regardless of what happened, continue to observe the arising and passing of the five aggregates and keep wishing all beings free from suffering. So you take note of this experience. So again, if the conditions are right, it won't be the equanimity from previously. It will be a kind of blankness. So we call this the perception of infinite space. Yeah. You keep generating the right thought. Do not get lost in space. Even concentrated states are part of the five aggregates, subject to clinging. We treat the peace or whatever nice experience as a byproduct, emphasize on turning the Dhamma wheel. Once you chase the peace only or hold on, like some meditators think, no thinking lah, so you just hold on and finish. Yeah? Call it clinging and suffering. Okay, then we can move on to the third sublime state, which is appreciative joy. So we can rejoice in the accomplishments of all beings. So using this non-discrimination approach, 5 aggregates. All beings are made of 5 aggregates. So we have this thing called appreciation. So whatever sensation appear, whatever aggregate appear, then we kind of have gratitude. So we can rejoice with all beings every moment, have this appreciation. Don't have to wait for someone to strike a lottery to rejoice. Every moment can practice this appreciative joy. So it's cultivating gratitude and contentment. So again, the conditions are right, and unlike the previous blank experience, this time it should be the opposite. It should have a sense of fullness, as though the sense of self has merged with the entire surroundings. So we call that the perception of infinite consciousness. So regardless of what you experience, keep on observing the 5 aggregates and rejoice, have great appreciation. Okay, and before we end the session, same gentle reminder: in all activities, standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, we can be mindful of the sublime states or mindful of impermanence. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session. Informally, still can generate right thought. Okay, Anumodana, dedicating merits. Akasata ca Phumata Devanaga Mahidika Punyang tang anumoditva Chirang rakantu loka sasanang Etawata ca amhehi Sampadang punya sampadang Sabbe deva sabbe puta sabbe sata anumodantu Sabba sampati siddhya. Dedication of merits to departed. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow, second bow, third bow.